She ran barefoot into the road, tears streaming, her tiny voice shaking. "Please, someone help. They're hurting my mama." Every biker froze, engines silent, eyes locked on the trembling child. What happened next was something no one in that town ever forgot. The sun was sinking behind the hills when the engines of the Hells Angels growled like thunder across the quiet streets of Edgewood, a small town where everyone knew everyone, but not everyone dared to speak the truth about what happened behind closed doors. The bikers were passing through on their way to a rally 2 towns over, their leather jackets and roaring motorcycles sending vibrations across the pavement as people peeked out their windows, curious, cautious, whispering stories they heard but never confirmed. And in the middle of this rumbling river of chrome and steel was a little girl, no more than 7 years old, running barefoot, her pink dress torn, her knees scraped, her breath broken into sharp sobs as she stumbled forward. The smallest biker, a man named Ryder with a weathered face and calm, heavy eyes, saw her first. Before he could even stop his bike completely, she grabbed onto the edge of his vest with both hands and cried out, her voice shaking with fear and desperation, "They're beating my mama, please, please help her." The girl's name was Lily, though she didn't say it then because her mouth was trembling too much to form anything but the words she thought might save her mother. The moment her plea echoed down the line of bikers, everything changed. The engines quieted, the men who had been laughing fell silent, and instinct, the kind that comes from seeing real pain, rose inside every one of them. Ryder knelt down slowly so he wouldn't scare her, brushing a loose strand of dusty hair from her face, his voice low and steady as he asked, "Who's hurting your mama, sweetheart?" But Lily didn't answer with names. She just pointed shakily toward an old wooden house at the edge of town where the door hung crooked and the yard was littered with broken beer bottles and crushed cigarette packs. It was a house the locals avoided, a house children dared each other to walk past at night, a house filled with shouts that no one wanted to admit they heard. Ryder stood up, eyes tightening with a quiet fire, and nodded to his brothers. He didn't need to explain anything, the girls' tears had already told them everything they needed to know. The bikers turned their engines off and walked with Lily leading them, her small hand clutching Ryder's gloved fingers, her legs wobbling with fear but moving because she knew this was her only chance to save the woman she loved more than anything. As they approached the house, the smell of stale alcohol and old anger hung in the air. From inside came a crash, glass breaking, followed by a scream, not loud, but thin and exhausted, as if the voice behind it had spent too many nights begging for mercy. Lily flinched, her entire body jerking, and Ryder tightened his grip, lowering himself again so his eyes met hers. "We're here now," he whispered, and the promise in his tone was enough to give the little girl just enough courage to nod. Without hesitation, the bikers pushed open the creaking door, and what they saw inside made even the toughest among them clench their fists. The living room was dimly lit by a single flickering bulb, and on the floor sat Lily's mother, Maria, a young woman with bruises blooming across her arms, a cut on her lip, her hair pulled harshly to one side where someone had yanked it. Standing over her was a man with a beer bottle still in his hand, his face twisted with anger, his movements drunk and wild. The moment he turned and saw the bikers, he tried to raise the bottle threateningly, but Maverick, one of the largest Hells Angels, stepped forward and grabbed his wrist with a calmness so cold it terrified the man into silence. Ryder rushed to Maria, helping her sit up, but she pushed his hand away at first, frightened, unsure, her eyes darting around the room until she saw Lily peeking from behind the doorway. The mother's expression collapsed, her strength melting into tears of relief as she reached out trembling hands toward her daughter. Ryder picked Lily up and placed her gently into her mother's arms, and the way they clung to each other, shaking, crying, whispering apologies and love, made even the hardest biker swallow the lump forming in his throat. Maverick released the abusive man with a shove that sent him stumbling into a chair, but before the man could speak, Ryder turned his gaze toward him, a cold, wordless stare that carried the weight of a warning stronger than anything spoken aloud. The man opened his mouth but shut it again when he saw all the bikers watching him, arms crossed, expressions carved from stone. They didn't hurt him, not physically, but the silence alone delivered a message he would never forget. When the police arrived, Called by a neighbor who saw the bikers storming the house and feared the worst, the officers paused in shock at the scene, the notorious Hell's Angels standing protectively around a battered woman and her child, while the abuser sat trembling, sobered instantly by fear. Lily clung to Ryder's shoulder when an officer approached, scared they might take him away, but Ryder gently assured her, "It's okay, sweetheart, they're here for your mom now." The officers listened carefully as the bikers explained everything, and for once the law didn't look at them with judgment but with a quiet gratitude. Maria was taken to the hospital for her injuries, and Lily refused to let go of Ryder's hand the entire way. He stayed with her, sitting in the stiff plastic chair beside her hospital bed while she slept curled against her mother, as if afraid that letting go would allow the nightmare to return. When Maria woke up, she whispered a soft thank you to Ryder, a thank you that carried a lifetime of pain and a new beginning wrapped inside it. She explained how she had tried to leave many times but never had the courage, never had the safety, never had anyone to run to, until her daughter saw the bikers riding by and made the bravest decision of her young life. Ryder listened quietly, nodding, his rough, weathered hands resting gently on Lily's small fingers. In the following days, the Hell's Angels stayed in Edgewood longer than planned, helping repair Maria's broken door, cleaning the yard, fixing the leaky roof, and ensuring the man who had hurt her remained far away, monitored closely by the police and watched even more closely by the bikers. The townspeople, once fearful and judgmental, began to see a different side of the men on motorcycles, men who didn't ask for recognition or praise, men who simply acted when someone needed help. Lily followed the bikers everywhere during those days, her laughter returning slowly, her fear fading bit by bit as Ryder taught her how to draw shapes in the dirt with a stick or told her funny stories about the road that made her giggle. Maria would watch from the porch, her hands still bruised but her eyes brightening each day as she saw her daughter healing. When the time came for the Hell's Angels to leave, Lily ran to Ryder again, but this time she wasn't crying. She wrapped her arms around his neck, whispering, "Thank you for saving my mama," and Ryder, who rarely showed emotion, felt something tighten inside his chest. He hugged her gently, promising, "You're safe now, and you're strong, never forget that." As the bikers rode away, Lily and Maria stood side by side, waving, not with fear, not with worry, but with gratitude and a sense of hope they thought they'd never feel again. And though the engines eventually faded into the distance, the memory of that day would never fade for them, nor for the tough bikers who were reminded that sometimes the bravest warriors are the smallest ones, and sometimes the loudest cry for help comes from a child who refuses to give up on the person she loves most. If this story touched your heart, then your support means everything. Please like the video so more people can hear emotional stories like this. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more real-life moments and powerful lessons.